world is changing. Truth is vanishing. War is coming.
It's been a long time, friend. You've no idea the power I represent. It knows your story and how it ends.
Listen to me. The world's coming after you.
His fate is written. Shall we write yours too?
If anything happens to them, there's no place that I won't go to kill you. That is written.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is my review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Now, Ethan Hunt and the team must track down a terrifying new weapon that threatens all of humanity. If they fail, or it falls into the wrong hands, the end of the world is nigh. Now, with control of the future and the fate of the world at stake, there's a deadly race around the globe. Now, Tom Cruise, he does it all in this film. I cannot believe this guy is, what, 55, 56? And it's coming off the success of last summer's Top Gun 2. We see him fighting on top of a moving train, fighting in a tiny alley, throughout the streets of Rome, racing a Fiat 500 electric car backwards, and even jumping off a cliff on a motorcycle. I mean, guys, he's doing it all, man. And the film is nearly 3 hours long, although you don't really feel it. Now, 3 hours is fine if telling a story right really demands it. But if it's a slow burn, then you're counting down the hours and it could be boring. But when it's as fast-paced as this, you hardly notice. Now remember guys, this is only part one, but the full story has kind of been told. Like, we know what the setup is, we know what's at stake, but the film is designed to set up its successor. The bad news is, but production of part two is nearly finished. It's been halted by the WGA strikes. The film's planned release was the 28th of June 2024, but only time will tell whether they will be able to meet that date.
What is that? Come here,
All I have, carefully, I helped bring you into this world. Now I'm going to help usher you out. People have often been happy living in a lie, but I won't let you turn the whole world into one. No. But I'm making it anyway.
As you can tell from my opening, the film mixes different elements of Person of Interest and Westworld to stop a rogue artificial intelligence called the Entity. Two halves of the key are integral to destroying or controlling the AI, and that's what Ethan's mission is, which he totally chooses to accept. It's not only to get it, but only to find out what it unlocks. Now, the Entity originally is designed to sabotage digital systems, and it went rogue and achieved sentience and infiltrated a major defense and military systems around the world, actually, and intelligence networks of various world powers. And they are now racing to protect their national security and harness the Entity to use for themselves. So the whole world is after this thing, to take control of the world systems, believing that the Entity poses too great a threat to humanity. It's Ethan that seeks to destroy. He's the only one that wants it to end. So I want to talk about the Entity. Think of Person of Interest as AI. I had this screen up now to show you basically what that series was all about. The villain was called Samaritan, an artificially intelligent mass surveillance computer system. And the Entity in this film is designed for intel gathering and hacking into enemy systems. It somehow developed sentience and began a campaign of cyber terrorism against the world's various intelligence services. What the system did was jack into every country, and then it just disappeared. it can cause disruptions. It didn't, but it just wanted to let them know it can. Now, at the beginning of the film, the entity made contact with something inside the locked chamber within the submarine that caused it to develop a will of its own. And it's developed into a far more advanced program than its makers has intended. I'm hoping these answers will happen in the second film, but as of now, we don't really know why that happened. Outside of that, as I said, we'll have to wait until part 2. Now, the entity recruited an old enemy from Ethan's past, the mysterious terrorist Gabriel. We know him in DC as Deathstroke, to serve as its messenger and enact its will. The entity tasked Gabriel with obtaining the 2 keys to the locked chamber on board the submarine before the Mission Impossible team or any other faction could claim it. Now, the entity is capable of making rapid calculations involving behaviors of certain individuals and the probability of various circumstances occurring to make accurate predictions of the future. This is why I talked about Westworld. Remember the AI there? He could tell you what you would be like the next 5 or 10 years, whether you would die of cancer, whether you'd have a miscarriage, whether you would end up in divorce in your relationship, or anything on the grid. And that's why it sent the people in Westworld into mass hysterics. In this film, it doesn't really do it on that level, but on the lower level, it's just showing that it actually can predict the outcomes. So this is what makes it really dangerous. It's starting to think, it's starting to act, it's starting to kind of tell everyone how it will end, how it will roll out, who is going to die. And even in Westworld, even in the series, it raises the very real debate, and this is real life, guys, about human beings being endowed with artificial intelligence, about their rights, their evolutions, and if at some point they will develop a consciousness with the computers of their own that could cause a rebellion against their creators. And this is where we are right now in our real world. And at this point in Mission Impossible, the entity just wants to survive. It can see the threats around, it can see that everybody wants to control it, and it doesn't want to be controlled, it just wants to be left alone, and it wants to survive. In addition to being able to distort videos and data, the entity could also impersonate individuals and mimic how they will act through texts or even audio communications. A story, guys, is only as good as its villain, and entity makes a very compelling antagonist, one that you cannot punch, fight, or reason with. And it ends with Ethan having claimed the key from Gabriel. Now that he knows what it fully unlocks, his plan will likely involve to head in at the bottom of the ocean to retrieve the entity's chamber within the submarine. Ethan will also have to figure out a way how to work against the entity, which could mean employing non-tech devices and, going to ground. This plan was made by Luther Sickle. You guys know him as Ving Rhames, a Mission Impossible team computer technician, who at the end of this movie has gone dark and is only using analog communications. And one of the best scenes in the film, guys, was a train scene. A showdown on the runway Orient Express where a business deal to obtain the key goes down and Gabriel winds up with the key. But during a fight on top of the train was speeding. He knocked out all the controls and the navigation and everything. He knocked it all out, and then Gabriel's plan was to escape and jump away to safety before detonating the bridge that the train was quickly approaching. Now Ethan has to escape the train carriages one by one as they fall into the mountainside. And guys, I'm not going to lie, this for me was the standout part of the movie. It's something that we've not really seen done at this level before, although we have seen things familiar with trains going off the side of cliffs. But in here, they slow it down and do it carriage by carriage, and it's gripping, it's chilling to say the least. It really builds up a level of drama and suspense that is well worth the price of admission. Credit to writer-director Christopher McQuarrie here, who crafts a stunning and precise tension-filled sequences, which is the best in the series at that. I know the scene in Rogue Nation and Abu Dhabi, that was good as well. And I think that it is absolutely brilliant, the way that he shot this film. Now, it stands with Ghost Protocol and Fallout as the best in the series, in my opinion. We get to the point where the team can barely trust their own senses. And even the audience, we don't know who to trust either. Luther is in hiding. Dunn can no longer simply just sit behind a computer and make Hunt's job easier. So he has to now come into the field. And the new member Grace, played by the beautiful Hayley Atwell, is a welcome addition. Not only do I love her as an actress, but she brings her charm and charisma as a thief recruited to steal the key, when she has no idea how much over her head she is until she crosses paths with Ethan Hunt. Now, Alec Baldwin once called Ethan Hunt the incarnation of chaos, and the way the film retroactively incorporates this chaos is one of its strengths. It's funny, there's also a running joke in this film with the CIA agents are chasing Ethan Hunt because he's a menace to society. But actually, one of them stops chasing him and asks the question of, why are we chasing a guy who's saved the world countless times before? If he's doing something that will morally save the whole planet, why are we trying to stop him? I really thought that that was excellent, because the audience themselves are pretty much asking themselves the same question. Why are you chasing this guy when he's trying to save the world? I'm glad that it really came up. So it's made clear and simplistic to the audience that leaving the characters alone to fight for what's right is the best thing to do. You only feel that this is happening because the governments have been left in the dark. Now guys, I give this film a solid 9 out of 10. It's an explosive saga that leaves you wanting more, and yes, you will get much more when part 2 comes out next summer. We can't wait soon enough, but obviously it's going to depend on the writer's strike. Let me know, guys, what your thoughts are with this film in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace out, guys.